So happy First Chapter Friday. I'm continuing our thriller and somewhat of a horror, and it's definitely based on a horror story book that is The Initial Insult, and it's by Mindy McGinnis. I was astounded by this book. The author did this fantastic job of just pulling all of these elements of Edgar Allan Poe's works and just inserting it into this book. And it kind of felt like if anyone knows Edgar Allan Poe, they would just so enjoy every reference that you pick up. You feel like, it's like, oh yeah, I caught that, and oh, I caught that. And then I wonder if this is going to happen, and so forth. So I'm going to get into the beginning of it, and then I know that you will want to finish reading. If you have any love for Edgar Allan Poe, or you're totally into these dark mysteries and major teenage revenge, and yeah, okay. Wet your whistle, I hope. So, The Initial Insult. Chapter 1. Dress. Out here, something can turn to nothing real fast. The buildings fade out as you drive from town. Paved roads turn to gravel and then to dirt. Cell phone towers start to disappear. Electric lines begin to sag, and soon you're nowhere. Grandpa Cecil says that's a good thing. Says the animals like it that way. But the animals he's talking about are in cages, and I don't think they like much about life at all. Most of them were bred in captivity, but those that weren't, like the panther, they've got a different feel about them. Something in their eyes, something they lost. They watch me and Cecil, waiting for us to make the mistake that will give it back to them. I'm always aware when I'm near the cages, but Cecil's awareness drifts a little with the drink, and he's got a bad eye on account of it, damaged and filmed over gray. The cat got it, and Cecil swears he wants the other. The sign out by the road reads, Amontillado Animal Attractions. But last week someone spray painted White Trash Zoo all over it. I'm scraping away the end of that with a screwdriver, tiny curls of red paint falling around my feet, the tips of the poison ivy vine that climbs the signpost brushing against my arms. I'm not worried. I don't get poison ivy. Cecil says that's on account of my mom, but she's gone, so I can't ask her if she's got the rash or not. I push deeper, accidentally digging into the planks and sending a chip flying off into the overgrown ditch, a new scar bright against the old wood. An autumn sun is burning into my back, giving the last of the summer warmth to my skin as I work. School started 2 months ago, but it's still hot down in the valley, and the school board spent their whole last meeting debating with parents over the cost of air conditioning. That and the flu that's burning through Prospero, the next town over. It turned into an argument about taxes and the last levy failing, and then the school nurse getting shouted down by someone with a WebMD printout. My cousin Ribbit told us all about it, said pretty soon parents were fighting with each other about what was more important, health or air conditioning. Me, I don't have parents, just Grandpa Cecil. That's something of mine that turned to nothing overnight back in 5th grade. My house and my allowance and my toys and clothes all following about a month after. Friends took more time to disappear, but they did. Air conditioning, Cecil huffed when Ribbit stopped by, his rusted-out truck idling in the driveway because he's never been quite at ease with the animals. Walk outside, Cecil said. There's air. Air conditioning was for pussies, Cecil went on, and he didn't raise none of them. I didn't argue against that, since the person he did raise is gone now, and what he does for me can't exactly be called parenting. More like just making sure I don't die, and if I do, that it's not because one of the animals killed me. Then his business would be shot. "Nice sign," Ribbit said, when he put the truck into reverse, ready to head back to the Usher house, down the road. I hadn't noticed it until he pointed it out, our sign being something I looked at every day, but never really saw, like Cecil's milky eye rolling in its socket. The spray paint was new enough to still be shiny, but old enough to have soaked in. Days then. For days, people down in town had likely been laughing, and me driving right past it in Cecil's old truck, coming home from school to feed the animals their bloody, raw meat dinners. Not seeing it. Not seeing the insult, painted in bright red, right at my own doorstep. Cecil had raised his ball cap and scratched his head, honestly stumped. "Who would go and do a thing like that?" I know exactly who. It's got to be someone who doesn't mind driving a switchback over the ridge in the dark. The turn's so tight you pray you don't meet someone, because these roads weren't meant for more than one car at a time. Someone who knew Goldie Dog, my ancient mutt, who I named back before I had much of a vocabulary, and would still follow me to the cages at feeding time, even though I'd be done and heading back to the house by the time she got to the first pen. The gator got Goldie last week, little tufts of gold-white hair floating in her pond, as she eyed me, silent in the moonlight. Someone who thinks they're better than us, someone with, I'm sure, things like air conditioning and a flu shot and a car with a muffler on it, because Cecil and I never heard a damn thing, and the dog never made a peep. Maybe because Goldie was as good as dead already, the deadly V trail of the gator dancing on the surface as she made her move. Someone who wanted to make sure we know what we are, and bothered to drive out of town, past buildings and the cell towers, past the paved roads and up into the hills, coming back down on the other side, out here, to our little place. Coming out here to lead Goldie to the water and leave their mark on our doorstep. They left something for nothing and came to take a little bit more from us. I can see it. I can hear it. I can smell it. She's in her shiny blue car, music blaring until they're close to the house, windows open to air out the sickly sweet smell of weed. She's probably shushed the others, the new friends that she brought along to torment an old one. Probably closed her car door real quiet and slipped Goldie Dog a treat when she came to greet her, still familiar with her scent after all these years. A kind one, a comforting one, a scent she would have trusted right up until the gator's jaws snapped down on her spine. I imagine my old friend even did the sign herself, maybe worrying a bit when the spray can was louder than she thought it would be, or shaking her hand when her finger got stiff from pushing it down. She was smart enough to take the cans with her, and I bet she even threw them in the dumpster behind the gas station on the way back home, after dropping off her friends, probably screwing Hugh Broward in the back seat before she went home. I'd borne it all with patience, the years of small cuts that heal over, my heart a pulpy mass of scars, but it was still beating at least, I could say that, right up until she took Goldie from me. Now it's a dead thing, still in my chest, and if I can't feel the good things anymore, then doing a few bad ones shouldn't hurt a bit, and they are long overdue. I dig viciously at the last bit of paint, and my screwdriver slips, flying out from under my fingers and sending my hand into a hard scrape against the wood. The pain is sharp and bright, and a shark pulses to the tips of my fingers. There's a splinter in my palm, running from the top of my wrist up into my fate line, close enough to the surface of the skin that I can see the grain in the wood, but deep enough that it's going to hurt like a before it comes out. I grip it with my teeth and pull, the sun baking my back and a trickle of blood snaking down my arm as I do. In his cage, the panther huffs, tail twitching, suddenly bright-eyed. He can smell it. I spit the splinter into the ditch, where it pings off one of Cecil's beer bottles. I'm not like Cecil, wondering who would go and do a thing like that. I know who. It was Felicity Tornado. So the next chapter is Felicity's, and it goes back and forth between these two ex-friends. And as you heard in just that first chapter, there were allusions to the Usher house. There's a zoo, as you heard, and there is an orangutan. Those of you who know Poe know how that's all related. They mention Rue Road and so many other things. What she does in order to have revenge is straight out of another book by Poe. And what she's going to do to exact her revenge is, it's very devious, and she is so hurting, and she has so little to live for, to feel anymore, that she's willing to do anything it takes to uncover some secrets. That it uncovers things the way one of us is lying uncovers some very deep secrets in town. But the horror is just how dark it can become when you have nothing left to lose and you'll do anything to get what you want. That became scary. It was almost like who's a worse monster between the two friends to get what they want. All right, so do read the whole thing, and you will also, like myself, really enjoy all the references, and you'll be like, aha, there's another one. Yeah, so take care and have a great Friday, everyone. We're almost at Halloween. I can't wait to read that story to you. Okay, take care.